I thought we were building a legacy. My husband, my best friend, and me, partners in a boutique branding agency born in my living room. We were the triumvirate. For a decade, we were inseparable. Then the headaches started, the vertigo, the strange, creeping fog in my mind. My husband said it was stress. My friend urged me to take a long, restful sabbatical. I agreed, signing over temporary operational control. I woke up from a 4-month neurological nightmare to find the agency sold, the assets stripped, and my signature on every document. The poison wasn't in my coffee. It was in the MRI, and they had ordered the scan. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. There is a betrayal that is hot, a slap across the face, a screamed accusation, an affair discovered in a flash of text light. That kind of betrayal leaves a clean wound. It bleeds, it scars, but you know its shape. You can point to the moment it happened. The betrayal I am about to tell you about was not that. It was a cold betrayal. A betrayal engineered in the silent spaces between heartbeats, in the quiet hours when I was sleeping beside the man who was plotting to unmake me. It was a betrayal not of passion, but of patient, meticulous architecture. It was the careful, deliberate dismantling of a mind, a life, and a legacy by the two people who knew the blueprints better than anyone. Let me tell you about the before. It was beautiful. It was the kind of creative partnership people write aspirational blog posts about. I met Lena in grad school at Parsons. She was all sharp edges and brilliant, cynical observations. I was the dreamer with a head full of color theory and narrative. We balanced each other. We shared a vision, branding that didn't just sell products, but told stories that mattered for small, ethical companies. We started Verity Collective on my laptop at my kitchen table, surviving on instant ramen and a shared, delirious faith. A year in, I introduced her to my boyfriend, Leo. Leo was solid, grounded, a financial analyst with a poet's soul, or so I thought. He loved our passion. He'd help with spreadsheets after his long days, his calm a perfect counterpoint to our creative storms. When we decided to formalize the partnership, it was natural. Lena, the visionary strategist. Me, the creative director and lead designer. Leo, handling all business and financial operations. We were the three legs of a stool. We were a family. We were the triumvirate. We got matching, minimalist tattoos on a trip to Iceland, 3 interlocking lines. His on the ribs, hers on the ankle, mine on the wrist. A permanent promise. For 10 years, we built something extraordinary. Not huge, but potent. We worked with sustainable fashion labels, clean beauty startups, eco-tourism ventures. Our reputation was for integrity as much as innovation. We were the agency you came to when you wanted your brand's soul to match its messaging. We moved from my apartment to a bright, airy loft in Dumbo. We hired a small, brilliant team who felt like an extension of our family. Leo and I got married in that loft, Lena as my maid of honor. She caught the bouquet. We bought a brownstone in Brooklyn together, a 3-family where we each had a floor. We were entwined. Our lives, our finances, our dreams, our daily coffee. The cracks didn't appear as cracks. They appeared as concern. It started with fatigue, a deep, bone-aching tiredness no amount of sleep could fix. Then came the headaches, vice-like, localized behind my right eye. Then the vertigo. I'd stand up from my desk and the world would tilt on its axis. My hands, my precise, steady hands that could illustrate the most delicate logo, began to develop a faint, intermittent tremor. I'd drop a pencil, spill a glass of water. Leo was the picture of tender, worried support. "You're burning the candle at both ends, my love. You have to slow down." He'd massage my temples, bring me tea. Lena would chime in, her brow furrowed. "Eloise, you're the heart of this place, but even hearts need to rest. We can handle things. Let us carry you for a bit." I dismissed it. I was a workhorse. It was just a rough patch. But the fog was the worst. It would descend without warning. In the middle of a client presentation, I'd lose the thread of my sentence. I'd stare at a Pantone book and the colors would swim, their names evaporating from my memory. I'd walk into a room and forget why. It felt like early onset Alzheimer, but I was only 36. The concern from my partners deepened. They staged an intervention of sorts. Over a beautiful, home-cooked meal Leo prepared, Lena held my hand. "We're scared, Elle. This isn't you. We've made an appointment for you with a brilliant neurologist, Dr. Felden, top of his field. We want you to get a full workup. For us. For the business." I was touched. This was love. This was my family protecting me. I went. Dr. Felden was austere, efficient. He asked detailed questions, many of which mirrored the concerns Leo and Lena had expressed. He ordered a battery of tests. The one that mattered was the MRI. The results came back. Dr. Felden's face was grave. He showed me the scans, pointing to a small, shadowy anomaly deep in my right temporal lobe. "It's a rare, slow-growing glioma," he said, his voice devoid of affect. "It's in a sensitive area explaining the neurological symptoms. The good news is it's not immediately life-threatening. The bad news is it will cause progressive cognitive and physical degradation. Stress will accelerate it exponentially. The treatment is rest. Profound, prolonged rest. And monitoring." The world fell out from under me, a brain tumor. The word echoed in the newly hollowed-out space of my skull. Leo held me as I sobbed that night. "We'll get through this," he whispered. "We'll sell the brownstone if we have to. Your health is everything." Lena was fierce in her devotion. "You're stepping away, effective immediately. No arguments. We'll hold the fort. You focus on getting well." They proposed a plan, crafted with my best interests at heart. I would take a complete, paid sabbatical. To ensure Verity Collective could continue to operate and provide for my medical care, I would sign a temporary power of attorney, granting Leo control of my financial interests, and a temporary operational proxy, allowing Lena to make creative decisions in my stead. It was all very legal, very tidy, presented with tear-filled eyes and promises that it was just until I was back on my feet. In my fog of fear, grief, and medication, Dr. Felden had prescribed a heavy-duty anti-seizure medication and a mild sedative for anxiety. I signed. I signed everything. I was surrendering to the care of my people. It was the only safe thing to do. The sabbatical became a confinement. The medications made me lethargic, fuzzy. The world passed by in a watercolor blur. Leo and Lena were always there. But their visits began to feel managerial. They'd update me on the business in broad, reassuring strokes. "Everything's fine. The team is great. Don't worry about a thing." But when I'd ask a specific question, "How did the pitch for Oceanwell go?" they'd share a glance and say, "We lost it, but it's for the best. Too stressful a client." I began to feel like a child being placated. I was isolated. Our mutual friends stopped calling. "We didn't want to overwhelm you," Lena explained. My family lived across the country. Leo handled all communication with them, assuring them he had everything under control. I was adrift in a calm, medically sanctioned sea, with my two anchors holding me gently in place, away from the shore. The unraveling began with a rogue notification. My iPad, which I mostly used for mindless streaming, was still logged into my professional cloud drive. One evening, a push notification flashed. "Document modified. Verity Collective Asset Sale Agreement Final." My heart stuttered. Asset sale. I fumbled with the tablet, my med-slowed fingers clumsy. I navigated to the drive. Folder after folder was empty. Client lists, branding archives, financial projections, gone. Only a few recent documents remained. I opened the asset sale agreement. It was a contract for the sale of Verity Collective's entire client portfolio, brand assets, and proprietary processes to a large, soulless conglomerate we had always mocked. The sale price was a fraction of our worth. The signatories, Lena Park and Leo Vance. The effective date was 3 months prior. My blood turned to ice. I scrolled further. I found the deed transfer for our brownstone sold, with my signature notarized. I found the dissolution papers for our LLC. I found the paperwork for a new company, Paradigm Shift Consulting, founded by Lena and Leo 6 months before my diagnosis, with our top 3 clients already migrated over. The fog in my brain didn't lift. It ignited into a firestorm of pure crystalline horror. It wasn't a tumor. It was a trap. I didn't confront them. I played the compliant, medicated patient. I told Leo I was having a bad headache day and needed to sleep. The next morning, I pretended to take my pills, hiding them under my tongue. I waited for them to leave for work at their new company, in a new office I'd never seen. Then I moved. I called the only person I could think of who existed outside their orbit, an old college roommate, Sasha, now a forensic accountant. I vomited the story out in a frantic, shaking whisper on the phone. There was a long silence. Then Sasha said, "Get out of the house. Now, go to a library. Don't use your cards. I'm coming to you." At the library on a public computer, Sasha and I began to dig. She accessed public records, business filings. I, with a clarity born of sheer terror, started connecting dots. Dr. Felden. His practice was new, barely a year old. His brilliant credentials were from institutions I couldn't verify. A deep search revealed his medical license was pending a review. He was a hired actor. The MRI? We found the imaging center. Sasha, posing as a legal assistant, called. With the right pressure, they admitted the scan had been brought to them on a disk for processing. It wasn't my brain. It was a generic, anonymized scan with a fabricated report. The poison wasn't physical. It was psychological. The headaches, the vertigo, the tremor. We researched my symptoms. They matched perfectly with side effects of the anti-seizure medication I'd been taking, a drug known to cause cognitive fog, motor issues, and dizziness in a subset of patients. The sedative amplified the effect. They had been slowly, chemically inducing my symptoms. The stress, the worry, the fear of a brain tumor did the rest, creating a perfect feedback loop of decline. Lena and Leo hadn't just stolen my company. They had gaslit me into believing I was losing my mind, then used that manufactured incapacity to legally loot my life. The power of attorney, signed under the duress of a false terminal diagnosis, was their master key. They had planned it for over a year. The new company, the slow migration of assets, the alienation of friends. My downfall wasn't an opportunity they seized. It was a harvest they had carefully cultivated. The rage was beyond anything I had ever felt. It was a silent, nuclear winter inside me, but I knew screaming would get me nothing. They had the law, the documents, the narrative on their side. I was the sick, unstable partner who had tragically stepped away. Sasha looked at me, her face hard. "We need a different kind of doctor." She connected me with a neurologist she trusted, a woman named Dr. Amara Singh. I underwent a real battery of tests. The result, my brain was perfectly healthy. No tumor, no anomaly. The chemical-induced symptoms began to recede as I flushed the poison from my system. Dr. Singh documented everything, the false diagnosis, the drug side effects, my recovery. It was my first piece of ammunition. Next, a lawyer, not a corporate lawyer. A pit bull of a litigator named Miriam Cole, who specialized in financial abuse and complex fraud. When I laid out the timeline, the documents, the medical evidence, her eyes gleamed with a predatory light. "This is one of the most chilling cases of premeditated, interpersonal fraud I've ever seen," she said. "We're not just suing for what was stolen. We're going for punitive damages for intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and criminal conspiracy. We're going to bury them." Miriam's strategy was twofold. The civil suit was a sledgehammer, demanding the full, fair market value of Verity Collective, the brownstone plus damages. But the real knife was criminal. She worked with a contact in the DA's office, presenting the evidence of the fraudulent medical diagnosis, the likely drugging, and the financial exploitation of an incapacitated person. An investigation was opened. We didn't tell them. We let them think I was still in the fog, still broken. Leo would come home and kiss my forehead, and I would smile vacantly, while inside, I was mapping the fractures in his soul. The hammer fell on a Tuesday. Process servers arrived simultaneously at Paradigm Shift Consulting and at their new penthouse apartment, purchased with proceeds from my brownstone. The civil suit papers were staggering in their scope. An hour later, 2 detectives from the Financial Crimes Unit arrived to question them about the criminal investigation. The facade of the loving partners shattered in an instant. Panic is an ugly color. They called me, their voices a discordant symphony of outrage and false confusion. "Alois, what is this? There must be a mistake. Someone is manipulating you in your state." I spoke for the first time in months without a slur, without hesitation, my voice cold and clear as a diamond. "My state is perfectly clear, Leo. My neurologist, Dr. Singh, has all the records. My lawyer, Miriam Cole, has all the documents. And the DA has a very interesting file on Dr. Felden, who seems to have vanished. You should probably call your own lawyer. Don't call this number again." The silence on the other end was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. The legal battle was brutal, but it was a foregone conclusion. Faced with the medical evidence, the timeline, the testimony from the imaging center, and Sasha's forensic accounting that traced every stolen dollar, their defense crumbled. They tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, that they were acting in my best interest. But the pre-existence of Paradigm Shift was the nail in their coffin. The civil case was settled to avoid a public trial. I won back everything. The full value of the company, based on its valuation at its peak, not their fire sale price. The proceeds from the brownstone plus appreciation, and a sizable punitive damage award that wiped out their personal savings and put Paradigm Shift into bankruptcy. Criminally, they took a plea deal. Lena and Leo were convicted of fraud, conspiracy, and financial exploitation. Dr. Felden was never found, a ghost they likely paid in cash. They are both serving 5 to 7 year sentences in white-collar facilities. Their matching tattoos are now inmate numbers. I got my life back, but it was a different life. The brownstone was just a house. Verity Collective was just a brand. I took the settlement and founded something new, the Aegis Project. We provide legal, financial, and investigative resources for people, mostly women, who suspect they are being manipulated or exploited by intimate partners or family members. We look for the patterns, the sudden illnesses, the controlled isolation, the signatures on documents that don't make sense. The people I loved the most didn't just plan my downfall. They authored it, chapter and verse. They studied my vulnerabilities, my trust, my love for them, my fear of being a burden, and weaponized them. Their betrayal was a masterpiece of intimate terrorism. But they made one fatal mistake. They underestimated the sheer, unkillable force of a woman who has seen the devil's blueprint and survived. They thought they were destroying me. They were just burning away everything that was soft, leaving only unbreakable steel. I am not who I was. I am quieter. I am sharper. I see shadows where others see light. And I have built a fortress from the ruins of their conspiracy, not to hide in, but to operate from. A fortress where I now help others spot the poison before it takes root, and fight back with a cold, clean fury that would make my former partners shudder. They planned my downfall. They just didn't plan on what would rise from the wreckage. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.